A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, as long as it's not good night, no matter where you are right now. Welcome to our Global Empowerment Summit. You're joining me, Michael Teo, here, your host for our very special forum on bridging the generations gap challenges with ageism. This particular forum is particularly for you if you are a senior leader and you're finding some challenges understanding, perhaps arguably, the most important workforce of our generation. And you're talking about the millennials workforce, the people from Generation Y, Generation Zs, whatever you call them. If you're finding some challenges working with them, understanding them, wanting to know how to motivate them, like what's going on with this generation, they're so important. They form the largest group of employable talents for me. And they may also form the largest group of consumers, customers for my business, yet I cannot decode them. Help me. If that is whispering in your mind, don't worry. We have 7 panelists who would be here with you today, this afternoon, this evening, tonight to share their insights with you. All right. Or perhaps you are a millennial yourself. You are tuning into this forum thinking about what is expected of me from my bosses? What is expected from me when I work with my senior generation customers or clients or stakeholders? Again, the word old is banned here. So there's no such thing as old. I'm a believer. You could be a senior, well respected in your wisdom and your experience. All right. Again, my dear friends, for those of you who are tuning in, no matter where you are, from the United States, from Australia, from New Zealand, from the Middle East, even from the African continent, from Europe, welcome, welcome, welcome. Again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Don't say good night yet because we are just getting started. One more time, my name is Michael Teo, and I am humbled and honored to be here with all of you together with our panelists here today. Do look all of us up over on LinkedIn. Now, for those of you who are wondering, who is this guy and why is Michael Teo the moderator for this forum? First off, I am the founder and CEO of Thriving Talents, where we are a talent development company that designs and provides leadership development solutions for organizations specifically focused on developing the millennials generation. So if you run a company or if you are a manager in a firm that has to work with people below the age of 35 and you seem to be having some challenges with them, we are your go-to person. I've been running my company since 2012, having a faculty of 33 expert advisors, trainers, and consultants, and we have been able to spread our training footprint across 41 countries so far, working with some organizations like Microsoft, HSBC, Shell, Petronas, Coca-Cola, to name a few. That's why I'm here. Okay, so my dear friends, without further ado, please do allow me to introduce to all of you our jam-packed panelists who would be injecting their energy and inspiration to our forum this evening. And I mean jam-packed. I mean, we have gotten the best of the best. We have gotten people from across the spectrum of generations and experiences to be here with you. So my dear friends, if you're all ready, let's do a thumbs up to the webcam, please, guys. Let's do a thumbs up to the webcam. There you go. So first and foremost, I will be introducing our panelists. And I will be calling upon their names one by one and introducing a summary of who they are. Now, in the process, after I've introduced every single one of them, when I summon their name, I would invite that particular panelist to just wave, unmute yourself, and just say hello to all of our audiences that are tuning in right now. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start off first with Andrea Chu. Andrea Chu is a creative expressionist. I love that already, who believes there's a bigger purpose than ourselves and always a kinder way to achieve the things that we want. Currently, she is a marketing strategist at Leaderonomics and has a passion for youth and the elderly and in living lives authentically with empathy and compassion. She comes from a little town in Malaysia with a love for studying human behavior all around her. Andrea, hello, welcome to our session today. How are you doing?
I'm great. Hi everyone. Welcome. We're so excited. Amazing panelists. So yeah, I'll leave it to you, Michael, to move on to the next person. But yeah, hi everybody.
Great smile and hello, everybody, indeed. All right. Thank you again, Andrea, for joining us. Coming up next, we have Miss Jasmine Roy. Jasmine is an engineer and an avid learner who's constantly exploring opportunities to utilize her empathetic and leadership abilities. She's on her path to discovery, but envisions integrating creativity, strategic thinking, and emotional connection towards solving problems and empowering individuals. She is currently based in Malaysia. Again, currently based in Malaysia, which means she does have aspirations to make her impact to the world. How are you, Jasmine?
Spot on, Michael. It's indeed. I'm excited to be here and share the stage with so many of you here. Looking forward, and over to you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And coming up next, we have Kathy Berman. Kathy Berman is joining us all the way from South Africa. I do have a question to ask Kathy in a moment's time, but let us get on with the introduction first. Although demographically a wise person, she's just senior. She's just seen it all, okay? She believes she is just a wrinkly millennial. That's right. It's what you feel inside, right, Kathy? She runs a portfolio career, a serial social entrepreneur, and consults in innovation, incubation, and impact for individuals, non for profits, community organizations, and corporates. Kathy, may I ask which part of South Africa are you joining us from now? And what time is it over there?
I'm in Johannesburg, and right now it's 3 p.m. in South Africa, and really excited to be here. That's why I've still got sunshine around me, and you will notice that I've got a little dog that jumps up and down all the time. So apologies, but he's demanding and he's a little blind, and so you'll all excuse me and welcome him. And he's very old. He's very wise.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Well,
so he's representing another generation.
Well, there you go. Well, I mean, your dog is wise because I think he knows that we're in need of a little bit of energy, a little bit of, I would say, variety in some of these forums. I mean, we can't do this in a face-to-face forum. You know, if we get into a hall, get into a convention center, the first sign you would see outside is no pets allowed. But hey, we are doing this virtually. Glad to have you with us, Kathy, right here. I have actually been to Joburg before. I mean, the locals would call it Joburg. Yeah, we did some training and consulting there in Johannesburg, and then in Pretoria, and then in Cape Town. So that was amazing. That was all in the year 2011. Really.
You got to come back.
Oh, I would love to. I mean, I'm already missing that accent that you have just used and you will be using throughout our sharing, you know, the South Afrikaans, I believe, type of accent. Am I right to say that?
Yeah, it's South African, yeah.
There you go. Thank you again, Kathy. Hey, really appreciate you being part of our panel. Coming up next, we have Rohan Kumar, all right? Okay, if all of you that are joining us here in Malaysia, we'll be calling him Rohan Kumala, okay? But for those of you who are international audience, it's Rohan Kumar, all right? So Rohan Kumar is only 23 years old, and he is already helmed as a beauty guru, an entrepreneur, and a business coach based in Malaysia. He ventured into entrepreneurship when he just started his first year in university when he was just 18 years old. Now he's on his journey to build people's confidence with the help of skincare, makeup, and even developing other entrepreneurs in the beauty world. He is young but wise. Hello, Rohan. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing really well, and thank you so much for the beautiful introduction. So I'm so excited to be on here tonight to share about, to talk about the generation gap and how the generation it's something that I'm really passionate about, being a millennial. So I'm just really excited to be here today.
Fantastic. Hey, thank you, Rohan. Appreciate it. I'm pretty sure people like you, people like Jasmine, people like Andrea. I mean, I'm calling out to our fellow Malaysians, our youths who's part of the panel here today. I think a lot of young people are going to find all of you very inspiring as well. Now, I am not saying that Teacher Kian, who's our next panelist in the forum, is not a youth, because he obviously is, right? So Teacher Kian, very inspiring profile. Allow me to introduce all of you to him. So he is a parenting and corporate trainer from Malaysia. While he was a barista and an investment banker in the past, he has now devoted his time to help struggling parents navigate their children's difficult years. He has prevented thousands of parents from pulling out their hair and becoming hairless parents. What an introduction. Hello, Teacher Kian. How are you doing?
Good evening. Thank you, Michael, for that glowing introduction. And hello to all my fellow panelists tonight. Oh, it is nighttime in Malaysia, and I must say it is a fantastic evening. I had a really, really productive day, and I'm looking to go and end it off with a bang. So back over to you, Michael. Thank you for that glowing introduction.
Look at that. I think Teacher Kian just brought up my energy like 20 times with that introduction from his part. All right. So again, guys, absolutely, I'm in love with the energy, the zeal, the passion that is being brought upon by all of our panelists here. And last but not least, we have Kim Adele Platts. So Kim Adele Platts is a renowned master coach, international best-selling author, inspirational keynote speaker, a face whisperer. Now that's interesting. Please tell us a bit more. What is a face whisperer? And the co-founder of Master Mindset and International Imposter Syndrome Awareness Day. Kim, I am very, very intrigued. I think we are all very intrigued. So what's a face whisperer? And you are the co-founder of the International Imposter Syndrome Awareness Day. Hey, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so face whispering is it's really fascinating. So irrelevant of our age, our race, our gender, our culture, in fact, even if we were born blind, we use the same combination of 43 muscles in our faces to demonstrate the same 7 human emotions. And our emotional brain responds 24 times faster than our thinking brain. So we don't get to think or don't show that emotion, it's already out there. But if you can learn to read them, then you can ask better questions to better understand people. Because I believe at our core, everybody wants to be listened to, understood and respected. So the more we can do to do that, the better. And so forgive me if you hear slight whimpering. I've got an 8-week-old puppy on my lap who we picked up yesterday, who will not leave my side. So unfortunately, he's joining in for the day, aren't you? So we did International Imposter Syndrome Awareness Day because I suffered with imposter syndrome for years. So despite having a great career, making it up to board level, I was convinced they were going to turn around and go, we've put the hairdresser on the board, that's awkward, get her off. And they never did, but I lived with the fear of not being good enough for a long time. And then having done the last probably 4 years worth of research into it, I realised actually it's a phenomenon that affects up to 70% of us, but there's no International Awareness Day. So one of the first steps of overcoming it is talking about it. And yet we've got International Pizza Eating Day, and you're like, but which is great. I don't get me wrong, I love pizza, but it felt like we should be doing something to help people so that they can overcome it and I want to live their dream life.
Interesting. And Kim, where are you joining us from, Kim?
So I'm in the UK, so we're only at 1 o'clock here. So we've got half the day behind us and half the day ahead. So it's a perfect balance.
Right. Which part of the UK, may I ask?
So I'm in the Midlands. So I'm in Grantham, which is kind of smack bang in the middle.
Oh, great. Fantastic. Hey, Kim, thank you so much. And welcome, everybody, for joining us. Again, as I promised all of you, we do have an amazing panel of 6 panelists here. Well, including me, that will be 7 of us right here sharing our insights. So, my dear friends, my dear panelists, if you're all ready, can I see you do a thumbs up to the webcam, please, so I can see you guys? Hey, I can see that. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate the energy. For those of you who are joining us either on Facebook or on YouTube, please do type away your questions, okay? Because we want this session to be about you. At the end of the day, I understand that you may be tuning in for this session and you're thinking, okay, I'm just gonna attend this session as a listener, right? But you would get much more if you participate. And it's really simple. Just type down your questions. All right, I could see Marissa Cubinar. Yep, a thumbs up as well. Marissa is joining us all the way from YouTube. Excellent. Hello. And for those of you who are joining us from YouTube or Facebook, please do type down your questions, because this is your golden opportunity, a chance for you to pick the brains of all our panelists that we have assembled here today. So my dear friends, if we're all ready, allow me to start off with the first question. And this first question goes out to all 6 of our panelists right here. Now, hear me out. I want all of you to imagine this scenario. So you are attending a one-on-one meeting with a CEO of a company, and the CEO seems very upset. He seems confused, and then he hired you to give him advice. So the way he responded to you in that conversation was, listen, I'm getting fed up with the younger generation that I am forced to work with. I mean, my senior workforce, they're all aging, and some of them are retiring, they're changing their career path. So I have no choice, but I need to work with these younger people, with this younger generation of employees. Yet I cannot figure them out. So Mr. or Miss Consultant, since you're seated right in front of me right now, what would that one advice that you would give me for me to better understand this millennial generation, this younger generation in the workforce? All right. I want to invite all of our panelists to use your years of wisdom, your practicality, your applications in formulating your answer to this. And I thought if we start off from the top, let's head up to Andrea. Andrea, what would you say to that CEO?
Oh man, I'm just questioning why my name starts with A. Because I'm so first.
Hey, it's a good opportunity. It's a good opportunity. Just do your best, Andrea. Go ahead.
I don't think I would give an advice. I don't usually give advice, but I would definitely ask a key question. And that key question would be, have you actually sat down and had a one-on-one conversation with a millennial? And what was the outcome of the conversation? What happened in that conversation? I think that's the first question I would ask. And I'm pretty sure the other panelists have a lots of questions to ask as well. So I will cut mine short. So that's the first question I would ask.
And that's the type of answers we want in this forum, because that is already a powerful point. I mean, you're asking the CEO, have you actually sat down and actually had a conversation with your millennials? Have you actually questioned them about their motivations? Have you actually asked where did they come from, who they are, what do they like? So that's a very powerful one, Andrea. So well done. That's a very good start, by the way. You have set the benchmark pretty high. Yeah,
Sorry,
goddess.
guys.
Now, coming up next, we have Jasmine. Jasmine, what would be your advice for that CEO then?
Well, in my opinion, I believe there isn't a difference between a CEO and the younger subordinate. So my insight would be everyone is different with different personalities and different motives and vision. So have we taken the time, adding on to what Andrea has said earlier, like really understanding them to see, what are their motives and visions are, and align their expectations perhaps. That's
Amazing.
one from me.
I love that. There are 2 points that I've picked up right here. Number one, you mentioned about the CEO needing to embrace diversity, because right now, whether he or she likes it or not, we are living in a world where our workforce is becoming intergenerational or multi-generational, as I would say. And they need to appreciate that in that diversity, strength is also found. And I like how you talked about aligning expectations, because at the end of the day, you could be a CEO, you could be the janitor, you could be the general manager, you could be the storekeeper. But if you do not align your expectations with anyone, regardless whether they are the younger staff or the senior staff, conflicts are bound to happen. Yeah, Jasmine, would you agree with that?
Completely on that, Michael.
Excellent. All right, so it looks like Jasmine has raised the bar even higher than Andrea. But again, no worries. Let's move on then. Let's hear from Kathy. Kathy, can you share with us, please, if you were consulting that CEO, what would that one advice be, Katie, that you would give him or her? Go ahead.
Now I'm going to have to lower the bar. No. Well, I think I wouldn't be giving advice. I would be asking him or her what he or she was thinking, why he or she felt there was a difference in age in particular. Ask about policies that are in place in the workplace around all sorts of isms. And I mean, also when I was preparing for this panel, I actually, funnily enough, wasn't thinking about how to accommodate millennials. I was actually thinking about how to accommodate older people who are thrown out into the waste heap. So
we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a moment.
About their retirement age, you know. So for me, and one of the statistics I saw was that of all the isms that people were being interviewed on in one particular study, ageism above sexism and racism affected 43% of that sample, but actually ageism affects 100% of society. So for me, it's how do we all move out of where we are in our socialized units, which are family units, which are power-based, authoritarianly based. How do we move out of that into a 21st century where we're seeing flat structure because of the millennial and digital opportunities? And perhaps for me, therefore, it's about understanding, probably hiring Kim in to talk about this stuff to my dude. So, yeah, I think I'll leave it there. Otherwise, I'll keep talking. And Koga also wants to talk. So, yeah.
No, Katie, but you brought up such a very powerful point. You mentioned the way how I understand what you have mentioned is that to invite the CEO to assess his or her beliefs of the millennials, and also would their old policies still remain relevant for the younger generation of the workforce right now. But you mentioned something so wise, Katie. You mentioned something about the discussion should be on how can the senior generation of leaders start having an open mind and move out from what was considered the accepted norms of their working patterns in the past and move out towards the accepted norms right now. I mean, right now, people are talking about hybrid groups in our working culture. People are talking, you mentioned just now, you know, the younger workforce that's in the market, in the industry today. And you've also talked about how the structure right now tend to be leaner. It tend to be flatter. So I think that's very powerful. You know, so we're getting a variety of perspectives right here, coming from Andrea, who then shared about we should ask questions to our millennials, you know, to get to know them. We then spoke to Jasmine that talked about having the open-mindedness to embrace diversity and align expectations. And then Katie, you talking about the leader themselves, assuming that the leader in this context is the senior person, the CEO. Are they assessing their own beliefs? Are they assessing whether are they open-minded enough to take that leap to embrace the next normal, the next world, especially that's coming up as most countries around the world are now entering a post-pandemic stage in the endemic stage. So everything is going back to normal, but is it 100% normal or do we have some new culture coming up? Would you agree with that, Katie?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to someone else.
Yes, let's go. Rohan, how about yourself? You I believe you're one of the younger ones in the forum right here. So if you were meeting the CEO of the company and if he or she asked you, how do I deal with these young people? Okay, we use as a connecting phrase here in Malaysia and also in Singapore, right? So it's not just a Malaysian thing, okay? Right? Okay, so Rohan, what would your advice be for that CEO? Go ahead, Rohan.
My advice for that CEO or that particular leader, right, to actually practice empathetic listening.
Okay.
Because
nice.
You know, from the point of Andrea saying about having an open mind, and Jasmine talking about have a one-on-one conversation, right? But the most important one in the whole context, I feel, is to have the empathetic listening, to actually understand what your millennial wants, and to understand, and actually the leader should actually put themselves in the millennial shoe, understand how do they function, how do they think, and if they don't know, it's okay to ask, and listen from what they want, and move forward, like as even like Katie mentioned, there's a move forward with adapting new norms of personalizing organizational goals for that particular subordinate employee, so that they will feel, oh, I'm achieving something in this company. So I think here comes the empathetic listening and very effective communication. Yeah,
Right.
because there will be no point if I, as a millennial, and you are my CEO, I'm telling, okay, I don't feel growth here because I'm not learning enough. But then if the CEO is unable to understand what I am coming from, the CEO and leaders should improve the communication skill and just question like, actually, what do you want to learn? Like, what is
Right.
it can I help you to develop for you, which will also support your organizational goal? Yeah, I think it's empathetic listening, effective communication, and also personalizing an organizational goal to fit into the values of the individual who is working for it, who is working in the organization for you. And I think this is the most, these three things will actually prevent that frustration to happen. Yeah,
Very
that's what
nice.
I think.
Very nice, very nice. So what I'm hearing here, your advice, which is like you're giving the CEO a combo pack. So the combo pack is to have empathetic listening, because that would allow you to have better communication skills with your millennials, with the younger generation of the workforce, to personalize your organizational goals to suit their expectations and to match, to find a common ground, and having that open-mindedness to move forward with adapting new norms. Yeah, Rohan?
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Rohan, thank you so much for sharing. Kim, we'd like to hear from you right now. What would your advice be to that CEO who is grumbling about the problems about not being able to understand the younger generation of his team, his workforce? What would your advice be, Kim?
So there's already been so much great advice around like speaking to people and really listening to understand, not to interject, because very often we listen to make our point. But actually, one of the things that I would recommend is, have they shared their intention? Because sometimes when we share the problem, we make it so much easier. So if you go out to your people and say, what I'm really trying to do is create the right environment, the right culture for you to thrive. But in order for me to be able to do that, I need to understand what you need that to be. So my intention is to create the right culture. What I really could do with now is your help. So get them to be part of the solution, because then actually you are addressing it to their voice, but also people will see what you were trying to do. Because have you ever noticed, if you give somebody developmental feedback, the first thing they do is defend what they were trying to do. It's like, well, no, I know that's what you're trying to do. It's just not what you did. It's what you did was over here. So I always start with the intention first, because you get people on the same page and go, this is what we're trying to do. This is the goal. This is why it's so important. And therefore, they're slightly more forgiving if you fail on that goal, because they'll come and tell you and say, I know what you really want to do is this. When you do that, it doesn't work. It doesn't help. Because it gives you a common ground to go back to, and you invite them to help you solve the challenge. So they're no longer the problem, they're the solution. And when you change that framing in your mind, you change how you address everything.
Oh, fantastic, Kim. Kim, you mentioned something very profound right here, and that is have the CEOs, or the leaders, I would say, the managers, to share about their intentions. And I think for the panelists right here, I believe you may have heard of this speaker. His video on TED became one of the most watched videos, despite it being a non-entertainment video. And it was a video about management skills. And the speaker I'm talking about is Simon Sinek. Yeah. And his most watched video is Start With Why. And, you know, just deriving what Kim have shared, I think as leaders, when was the last time we inspire, we excited, or we communicated our why to our team members? So I think, Kim, you were really focusing on encouraging leaders to share with them their intentions. And their intention is their why. You know, why are they doing this, right?
Absolutely. And if you share your intention, and sorry, I'll shut up in a minute because I'm really keen to hear what you've got to say as well. But if you share your intention, it creates a safe space. If you, for example, you've got a really difficult conversation to have with somebody, If you
Correct.
share a bit of vulnerability first and then say, look, for example, I might rather stick my head in the oven than actually have this chat. But it's really important to me that I help you get out of your own way. So I have to tell you that you're getting in your own way. And on that basis, here's what I've got to share. What you do is you create a safe space. They no longer think that you're trying to have it in for them or be difficult for a reason or you don't like them. You're actually saying, well, I'm doing this for you. My intention is to help you be your best. So whatever happens, whenever the conversation gets complicated, you bring it back to, hold on, let's go back to our intention. Oh, is this achieving what we're trying to achieve? And it gives both sides a commonality. So I think I love Simon Sinek. I think getting your why and knowing your intention in everything really helps you to build the really good, engaging and honest culture.
Excellent, excellent. Engaging and honest culture. I love that. Thank you very much, Kim. And last but not least, let's head over to Teacher Kian, where in his profile, we know that he works a lot with the millennials, especially the kids, the younger generation. So perhaps, Teacher Ken, what would your advice be for this CEO?
Thank you so much, Michael. And let me go and tell you guys, I am so appreciative that I'm going last because really everything all of you say really, really resonates with me. It's very consistent with what I've been reading, with some of the research I've been doing as well. And I'm especially thankful for going after Kim and Rohan because a lot of the things they say really, really resonate with me. Yeah. All right. And I'm going to take a feather out of Andrea's cap over here. And Michael, I'm going to ask the CEO, hey, you brought in an advisor, you brought in a consultant, right? Now, why? What is the pain point here? Why do you go and call me in? And I think that I cannot add value as an advisor if I do not understand your intention. As Kim has said, is it a productivity issue? Are the millennials in your workforce unproductive? Or is it a morale issue? Are the senior leaders in the organization feeling a bit threatened, or they feel challenged by the way the millennials are communicating with you? Or perhaps is it a retention issue? Do you see large amounts of millennials leaving your company? Now, until we understand what is the root problem which caused him to go and bring us in today, I can't really give the best advice, yeah? So because there's definitely a pain, otherwise you wouldn't have asked me to come in. Now, having said that, there is, of course, some general advice I can go and give any leader in this situation. And this is the thing which leaders really need to understand, yeah? Okay, now, the way millennials, or actually the way all of us, right, are receiving information nowadays has drastically changed from 10, 15 years ago. Nowadays, everything we get, all right, we get it instantly. Everything we want is at our fingertips. We want to watch a movie. We no longer have to go to the cinema page in the newspaper. We just go to Netflix and stream whatever we want. So everything is now. Now, let's put it in the context of a workplace, yeah, right? Traditionally, right, in a traditional workplace, we would have to wait one entire year before we knew how we performed. And this normally comes in the form of a promotion or in an increment or in a bonus. Now, I think that most millennials, I'm saying most, yeah, not all of them, right? Most millennials cannot wait that long for feedback. After every project, or perhaps after every assignment, they would really, really appreciate feedback, whether it is positive or negative. I think that millennials are much more resilient than we give them credit for. If they feel that they've done badly, they want you to go and tell them now so that they can take steps to remedy it, right? They are not so easily bruised as we think they are. So now, the point is, it's not whether we give them good feedback or whether we praise them. No, it's not that, right? They want feedback and they want it now because that's just the way they are used to receiving information. So I think that's one of the talking points we could start off with, yeah, Michael. So back to you and my fellow panelists.
Excellent. Teacher Ken, I'm just going to hold you there, hold you in custody for a while because I'm going to go on to a question that has been posted by one of our viewers right now. We have quite a vibrant session right here, ladies and gentlemen. So well done to all of you, okay? If I could ask our crew at the backstage to put up the question from Jai Narayanan. I read the question earlier. So Teacher Ken, I would like to dedicate this question to you. So Jai asked, oh, by the way, Jai, I know that you're watching us right now. Okay, so Teacher Kian, he's a sought-after speaker. I mean, he helps thousands of parents in Malaysia get sleep at night. Not sleepless nights, actually get sleep at night by understanding their younger generation talents, children, as you would call them. Okay. So, Jai, if you want Teacher Ken to answer your question, please do reshare this forum right now. Just click on the button over at your Facebook or over on your YouTube. Hey, send this clip over to any parents that you know would be of need of all of our panel's insights today. All right, Jai? Excellent. So here we go, Teacher Ken. A question for you from Jai. Would you agree that for the millennials, is for us to keep any instruction short and to the point as they have shorter attention spans? What are your thoughts, Teacher Ken?
All right, so now Michael, and thank you, Jai, for this very lovely question. I think that this will open a lot of room for discussion with my fellow and beloved panelists over here. Yeah. Now, over here, I'm going to combine Kim and Rohan's answer. Now, it is not that we need to go and keep our instructions short when we're speaking to people, to the millennials. More rather, if you have a complex task, it would be advisable to go and break it down into smaller sequences. Right. Okay. Why? It is because, millennials appreciate feedback. Millennials appreciate seeing the result. When they do something, they want to go and see something. So if you can go and break it down into smaller steps, I think that would be very much more appreciative of it. Now, having said that, I do not think that as leaders, we should purposely cater instructions to be shorter, right? Because this will often come to the detriment of the client, right? Just because I want to go and cater to my millennials in my workforce, maybe I am not giving them enough information, right? Because I really, really do believe that every firm has a responsibility to meet the needs of its client. And I hope that this doesn't compromise, all right? This doesn't compromise the needs of the clients if we were to go and keep our instructions short. So now, long answer short, no, you do not need to go and keep it short, but it would help if you can go and break down a complex task into smaller sequences. Yeah, just my take on it. Yeah.
Thank you, Teacher Ken. Now, here's the part here where we will go on to our special segment among all of our panelists, which is like a battle royale. All right, okay, don't worry. They're not going to start killing each other, okay? A battle royale here means I'm going to open Jai's question to any of our other panelists who would like to attempt it. And it's very simple. I only invite you to just raise up your hand. This is to the panelists. If you would like to share your own perspective in answering Jai's question. One more time, Jai's question is, would you agree that for the millennials is to keep any instruction short and to the point as they have shorter attention spans? Would any of you like to share a thought about it? Just raise up your hand, please. Wow, look at that. Again, like I said, it's like a battle royale, right? You give a goal and everybody just rushes towards it, okay? For those Squid Game fans out there, yep, finish the series. It was lovely, amazing. Right, I believe I saw Rohan putting up his hand first. So again, Rohan, what would your thoughts be to answer this question? Go ahead.
My thought would be that first, it's unfair to just assume that millennials have shorter attention span. That it's really unfair, because I believe millennials do have a good attention span. But when you are delivering information or instructions, right, it's better to deliver it. I suggest for leaders to actually deliver your information, your instruction in a more structured manner so that they will be able to receive it quicker, to receive it faster, rather than and also to explain the thought process of the instruction. Like for example, you want your millennial, let's say for the millennial is working in a sales environment, so you want your millennial to sell the item. You are telling them, okay, can you sell 10,000 ringgit worth of product, right? Yeah. But not just mentioning that, but also telling them why you should do the 10,000 ringgit product worth of sales, because then the millennial will be able to understand. Yes, when you're explaining why, you are going to take time, so it's not going to be short. But when you're explaining them towards their importance, they will actually be able to receive your instructions and information more quicker, more better, because they will resonate with you. You bring that common ground between you and the millennial to understand each other. Yeah, that is my take on it. It's not about keeping it short, but keeping it meaningful. Yeah.
Amazing. Hey, thank you so much, Rohan. Rohan, I like the combination of your answer together with Teacher Ken. What I could say here is that, again, I agree with you not to generalize that all millennials are like that. Like, I'm a millennial, but I love very well explained instructions. But teacher Ken made a very good point. That is to break any complicated instructions down to bite-sized chunks. Because again, millennials these days, based on what teacher Ken mentioned, they want things now, fast, fast, fast. But Rohan, I like the part where you shared about, as much as we want to break down instructions to chunks when we share with millennials, it's also about explaining to them the why. Why should they be doing something? Why should they be pushing this agenda, right? So I love how our panelists currently at the moment, you have been answering questions by throwing in different insights. And my job as a moderator, which is a tough job right here, because I am surrounded by very, very distinctive, insightful panelists, is to break down their answers and make it practical and applicable for all of you out there. All right. Now, again, Katie and Kim, just bear with us for a moment. I'm going to now pass the stage over really quickly to Andrea and also Jasmine, because it was a battle royale. And even though Rohan was picked first, but I wanted to make sure that, hey, this is not Squid Game. No one's going to get killed. Everybody gets a chance. Andrea, what would your thoughts be about the stigma that millennials need short instructions? What are your thoughts, Andrea?
Okay, so a bit of context. I did a psychology. I'm a graduate from psychology, and the truth is, it's not just millennials, right? Everybody's attention span is getting shorter. Like last time, music, a good solid song would be 4 to 5 minutes. Now it's less than 3 minutes. Time has
Yes.
really changed. But coming down to instructions and how we communicate with somebody in a different generation, it really is being able to sync with the person you're talking to, right? So, for
Yeah.
example, you may have 10 millennials in your workforce, not 10 of them would have the same style of communicating and understand what you're trying to say. And I
Yep.
think that's very key to understand the style and adapt as a leader to speak to that vibe or that kind of level of communication is very important. And yes, it takes a lot of work for the leader because you got to be like a chameleon, right? You have to keep changing the way you lead and the way you speak and the way you communicate with somebody. And I
Yeah.
think the other part was when it comes to giving instructions, I do think
Yep.
it is important to be direct and straightforward, but I
Yeah.
also believe that we have to give a chance, not just to millennials, but everybody we speak to, a chance
Yep.
to understand complexity. So what I mean by that is
Okay.
the entire big picture needs to be explained as well, right? So
Mhm.
so that gives an opportunity for young people or just people in general to grow and understand, okay, I need to do A, B, and C, but this A, B, and C is part of this big plan, right? And you
Yes.
get them to understand that big plan. But then again, in psychology, we love this. It all depends because not everybody is able to understand complexity completely as the first time. It takes a while. So for me, as a leader, if you want to grow your people, whether it's millennials or young people or maybe even elderly, right? Have
Right.
that mindset to give opportunities to people to actually grow. Because if you're going to simplify something to the point that is, okay, you do A, B, and C, that's
Yeah.
it, and they don't understand, for example, the why, right? Like Rohan mentioned the why, the intention behind it, the big picture, we are robbing them of an opportunity to grow the ability to see things in both the big picture and the small things. So yeah, that's what I would say. I'll keep it short so that Jasmine has some other stuff to add on. Yeah, that's what I think.
Andrea, there was so much passion in your response. I love it. Thank you, Andrea. Jasmine, how about yourself?
Oh man, I think Rohan and Andrea summed it up perfectly. My points are just embedded in there, but just to repeat, right? Like a few things that Rohan has mentioned. I think it's a common misconception that yeah, I
Right.
think Andrea has mentioned too. It's not just a millennial perspective, but it could be intergenerational. So the idea is basically to just um, Rohan mentioned about value, right? In my context, I see it as an end goal. Sometimes we do synthesize information really quickly and we can basically begin with an end in mind. So that is often misconcepted as a short attention span as well, where it's just seemingly being able to synthesize information and see what's in it in the end. So basically, if that is not communicated in advance, then the whole, it could be a task or it could be any given assignment at that point of time. It could be seen as a waste of time, and this sort of like demotivates their whole energy and their vibe to even be doing it in the first place. And most often than not, this would eventually lead them into the overthinking situation if they're doing things right or wrong, and it just creates a whole point of confusion. And Andrea mentioned a thing or two about complexity, and it just doesn't add up. So basically, communicating the end goal to us how they would better fit into the jigsaw puzzle would be one way, to look at the picture, essentially.
Excellent. Talking about jigsaw puzzles, we do have a question by Sing Fong about the overgeneralization about millennials and how should universities and colleges teach them. Is it to cut down content, or how should university teach the millennials of this generation? I thought I wanted to throw that question over to Kathy and then Kim. So Kathy, what would your thoughts be? And right after Kathy and Kim has answered this question, I would like our backstage crew to bring up another question that was asked by Nat earlier on. All right, I think that was very powerful. But let's put up the question by Sin Fong first. Kathy, what would your advice be? Or I wouldn't say even advice, I would say like insights. How should universities respond to the changing world, and especially right now, in ensuring that their content that are being taught in their campuses are relevant to the millennials? Any thoughts about that, Kathy?
Okay, I want to disrupt the whole discussion.
Great.
So I want to take us away from the differentisms, and I want us to start moving towards the similarisms. Excuse me.
Good.
So
nice.
So I would love us to move off of millennials for a while, actually, because I also think we need to define what is a millennial and what is a what, and etc. But actually, for me, life is about bringing people together and diversity, and inclusion. And so for me, the whole notion of this discussion is about how to make a more inclusive, progressive, and much more constructive and resilient world and future for all of us. So for me, the wisdom that comes from every generation, every race, every whatever ism we want. For me, what we fought for South Africa was to bring about an inclusive and non-divided society. We're in the middle of voting at the moment, and sadly, so much of what we dreamed about didn't happen. We now have a process of empowerment, which is very important to make up for historical disadvantage. But what that's done is excluded a whole lot of people. So for me, what is so wonderful about the digital era is that there are no barriers, theoretically, if you have access to Wi-Fi and if you happen to not be living in an informal settlement. But there is access to the whole world through digital technology. There's access to every age, to every generation, to every type of person, to every culture. So when we used to live in our little villages where our families socialized us and we went to school and all followed a particular route, and then we were part of a religious institution, and all these religions are different and we fight over religion. For me, I think it's time we move away from this ageist stuff. It's time that we say, I know that when I call myself a wrinkly millennial, I know it's because most of the people I work with today out of choice, because they are volunteers from their community and I volunteer in their community. Most of them are, I've tried to look at it demographically, are young Black men, sons of single women. Ironically, that seems to be the people that are most progressive in working with me, who are giving back to their communities. A hell of a generalization, but it's a very interesting one. Okay. Now, for me, that's one group of people I work with. The other groups of people, some of my best friends are 85. Some of my best friends are in their teens. So I would really hope that this discussion can move us to how to, and also to move out of this old workplace hierarchy nonsense. I mean, not to attack you, but I'm going to call you out. Your assumption when you said CEO, him, okay, already threw in a whole lot of isms, okay? So, you know, I mean, the platform we're talking of was started by a group of young millennials out of the US. And I'm talking about StreamYard in this instance, but people are watching Facebook and YouTube. So there's this amazing coming together of everybody, okay? And for me, the problem is that when suddenly I reached a particular age recently, which I'm in total denial about, which is in and of itself a problem, but I'm in denial about that age. I'm now eligible for certain benefits. That's great, but I don't think that, I'll tell you, I'm 60. I don't think that 60 is old anymore, okay?
Right.
My problem is that I'm unemployable in my country because I'm over 60. So when I write and I'm asking for projects in the community, I'm too old, okay? But the people that I work with in my business are all under 35. But that's not taken into account. And I think a bit like a millennial, but then I don't need myself broken up into little fragments. So is this separatism right? And to answer the university question, the joy of the post-pandemic era is that we all have access to online learning at any time of our lives and any form of degrees. So we've broken that old hierarchy, particularly that British colonial heritage, where you had to go through very structured ways to get your master's degree and your doctorate. Now you have access to learning and to sharing all the time. And I better shut up, but that's me saying, please, let's get past separation.
Oh, amazing, Kathy, amazing. So we're talking about looking at how similar we are instead of how different we are. And I think you have also painted a premise for the university question by Sin Fong, where perhaps in universities, they could be the bedrock to encourage this new way of thinking. Instead of trying to separate whether you are the senior generation or the younger generation, young doesn't mean that you are no longer inexperienced. You know, being senior doesn't mean that you are Mr. or Mrs. Know-it-all as well. It's about both generations or both cultures or both backgrounds, any backgrounds, regardless, coming together, working towards a common purpose. And Kathy, I thank you for bringing us out. Well, I wouldn't say bringing us out. I would say evolving our conversation. Because today we are talking about bridging the generations gap, the challenge of ageism. So I believe now is for us to think that there is no challenge with ageism if we start thinking about looking for similarities instead of letting our differences define us, Kathy. Thank you. You know, Kim, riding hot right after Kathy's response just now. What are your thoughts, Kim? Go ahead.
So I think for me, it comes down to the whole question of diversity and inclusion. And we're all similar in so many ways. And everything we try and attack, every ism we try and attack is because we're looking for the differences rather than embracing the similarities. And I think, you know, if we think about it at our base, we want to be listened to, understood and respected. So for me, when I go into any organization, I ask people how they'd like to receive the information, rather than have a label and go, oh, you're a millennial, or you're a woman, you're a man, you're this, you're that. Go, actually, you're a human being. When I cut you, you bleed. If you cut me, I bleed. So on that basis, how would you best like to get the information? How do you want to be led as a leader? And I appreciate, you know, I'm nearly 50, so I'm at the older edge of these spectrums. But as a leader, I believe my job is to create the right service for my people, because if not, they won't work for me. So I look at everybody that works for me as my customer, because if I don't deliver a great service, they'll leave. And all the research shows that 57% of people leave their boss, not the organization. More than 1 in 2 leave the leader. So that's a really scary statistic to keep in my head. And therefore, I'll just say to them, what is it you need from me for you to be able to thrive? And I think every opportunity, every person you meet in life is an opportunity to learn something new. If you open your mind and listen, and I think for me, I'd love it if we could just lose the labels, because we get hung up on the label that we've put on things, and try and respond to that rather than just open our minds to going, this is a brand new human being I've not met yet. What am I going to learn from them? What am I going to be able to take away from this that allows me to be a better person and add better value to the world?
Kim, 3 questions that you have shared with us that I would really hope all of you watching this right now would be writing down. Number 1, when you go into any conversation, discussions, or especially if you are in a leadership position, whether you are senior or you're the younger one, always ask your stakeholders, ask the people whom you work with, ask the customers that you serve, how would you want to get that information from me? Something like that, Kim. Second question is, how would you like to be led? And third question is, what would you need from me in order for you to thrive? You know, Kim, I believe those are 3 golden questions that for all of you watching this right now, regardless whether you're the senior or the younger ones, when you ask these questions, it will open up a whole new possibility, because then you would have your stakeholders, your customers telling you what makes them happy. Thank you again, Kim. And Kathy, I can't thank you enough, because this is what we need during the midpoint of our conversation right now, and that is to evolve our topic from the challenge of ageism towards now looking for similarities, looking for a mutual ground. Because one more thing that Kim mentioned was to listen to our base, because really everyone wants to be respected. The millennials wants to be respected, the Generation X, the boomers, they want to be respected too. I think it's not to stereotype and to move towards that. But thank you for that. So having said that though, let's bring up the question by Nat earlier on. I think this question would have been somewhat answered. So Nat Schooler asked, what do you think are the key drivers for millennials versus older people in the workforce? So I think what Nat's trying to say right here is that what causes this conflict between the young people and the senior people in the workforce? I know we partially answered it, and that is to remove stereotypes, work towards similarisms, right? But would there be any other thoughts you would have in mind? I'm just going to throw this over to Kathy first. Kathy, any thoughts, please?
You know what? I'm going to pass on this one, because I think I've said quite a lot. There might be people who would prefer to respond to that one.
All right. Thank you so much, Kathy. Yes, and I did reiterated your response earlier as well. So I felt this question has been partially answered. But then again, let's go over to our other panelists. Teacher Ken, what are your thoughts on this?
Oh no, I was afraid that you would call on me. All right. Okay, here are my 2 cents on it. Yeah, all right. Okay,
Sure.
I think I do resonate a bit with what both Katie and Kim have mentioned. And going back to Nat's question over here, this is so much of a versus, yeah. I really think that we shouldn't be seeing that, we shouldn't be contrasting both of them. But I really do see something which is a room for improvement for all people, especially in the Asian sphere, yeah, okay? As Asians in this region, right? And I'm not trying to go and separate us again, but we have a tendency to oversell our merits and advantages and the strengths of our argument or the merits of our product. Now, if any of you have read John Maxwell, right, he writes a lot on leadership, and he has one law. It's called the law of connection. And even Dale Carnegie says this, yeah, in How to Win Friends and Influence People. And we really, really need to go and start talking to people from the point of view of their needs and interests. Right? We really need to go and start connecting with people from their needs, from their interests. In education, we call it lifting from where you stand. When you lift something, you don't bend your back to go and lift with your arms. You bend down to the level to the level of the person you're trying to help, and you lift with your legs, right? Lift from where you stand. And I really, really think that this is something both millennials and our seniors in the workplace can really learn to benefit from. Stop yelling about how great you are, right? No one really cares how great you are. They just care whether or not you can make them great, right? And I think that this is something which Simon Sinek said as well, right? He started with starting with why. right? But over time, he evolved his argument to realizing that, hey, it's not about your personal branding. It's about whether or not you can make your customers feel that they are the hero. And I think that this is something which both millennials and older people really need to understand nowadays, right? Speak to people's needs, spend time, invest time to understand your customers and your workforce. And yeah, you will get much more mileage that way, I believe. Right? Just my 2 cents.
Thank you so much, Teacher Ken. Kim, any thoughts you'd like to share before we move on to our... I'm not going to separate anyone right here, but I was going to say, before we move on to our millennial panelists right here, we have Rohan, we have Andrea, we have Jasmine, because I know after studying their LinkedIn, by the way, all of you are on LinkedIn, right? Because I studied your LinkedIn. I know that Andrea, Jasmine, and Rohan, you all perhaps have a more senior people that you report to or that you work with. So we're going to go to you in a moment's time. But Kim, what are your thoughts, Kim?
So I think for me, it's back to asking the individuals, irrelevant of their age, relevant of their race or their gender, what's your driver? What's your reason? Because if not, we're working from an assumptive base. We're assuming that we need them to, that they are going to fit into something. And yet we can be very different, every one of us. If I think about my friends and people at school, we're not all the same. We don't all want the same things. We don't all learn in the same way, but we would all fall in the same generation, clearly, because we came from that same generation. So I think it really is about saying, actually, what if we just asked the other person, what is it that's most important to you? Why is it important to you? Let me understand your story. Because I think I've got a real passion for us being able to really include people. And there's so many ways that we can exclude people. But one thing that I believe to be true is, irrelevant of our age, our race, our gender, our culture, our religion, is that we all teach and we all learn through stories. So for me, I go into every situation and go, tell me your story. I want to know your story, because that's going to be how I learn something. And also it's going to help me to understand how to better communicate with you. Because if I can tell you the story I want and help you understand the part I want you to play in bringing that story to life, then hopefully I'm going to set you up for success. I guess that's my take on how we should approach it.
Amazing. We learn from stories. So leaders, there's a movement going on in the world right now where leaders should be better storytellers, regardless whether you're young or you're senior. Just tell your stories, inspire people, build that empathy, build that connection with them through stories. Now, Kim, before we head on to Andrea, Jasmine, and Rohan, just really quickly, I know that Teacher Ken has to leave us right now, family commitments. But before we do that, I would like to invite Kathy, Kim, Rohan, Jasmine, Andrea. Let us take a group picture together. In fact, I'm just going to break protocols right here. This would not have happened without Andrea Zepka. Yeah. So Andrea, I know that you are leading our backstage crew right now, coordinating everything. Is there a possibility for you to join us for this quick picture moment, Andrea? There you go. You are never forgotten, Andrea. Andrea, there you go.
Yeah, you mean I'm leading me, myself, and I, right?
That's why I say the backstage team, the one-man army. Let us take a picture together, guys. Big smile. You can do a thumbs up for Teacher Ken. Here we go. In 3, hang on, yeah. I'll take a picture right now. In 3, 2, 1. Excellent. Thank you, everybody. Teacher Ken, I know you have to leave us this early on, but Teacher Ken, before you go, how can our audience get in touch with you, Teacher Ken? Especially if they want to have more nights being able to sleep as a parent. How should they get in touch?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, my fellow panelists. I really enjoyed every drop of this discussion. Wow, it is really, really stimulating, and I resonated so much with everything you all said. Now, you all can reach me at LinkedIn. I would love to be connected with all of you over there. All right, thank you for being such a gracious host, Michael. I have to bow out. And my lovely, dear fellow panelists, I had such a great time. Couldn't ask for more on a Sunday evening. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you guys around.
Thank you again, Teacher Ken. See you soon. Thank you. All right, fantastic. Okay, well, we already have a fan. Jaga said, I won the picture, guys. GES 2021. Excellent, excellent. Well, get it from Andrea. She will know where to find all those pictures for you, all right? So coming up next, Andrea, Jasmine, and Rohan, really quickly about that question that was asked by Nat Schooler earlier on. What do you think are the drivers that may cause conflict between the younger generation and the more senior generation in the workforce from your experience? Any one of you would like to go first? Can I just see your hands up? This is where you know you're speaking to a group of Malaysians. They're super nice. They're like, "Oh, we're not gonna raise our hands up. No, no, no. We love our colleagues. We're not gonna dash into this." All right, I'm just gonna assess based on who gave me the most response, and I think Andrea laughed the most. So Andrea, you're gonna start first, okay? My laughter detection meter says that you go first. So what are your thoughts?
I laugh all the time, so I'm most likely going to get a lot of that. I think I really come back to what Kim mentioned, right? It really depends on the person. But interestingly, when you change that question into the conflict that could happen between more of the Ys versus the millennials, I think millennials at this point of time, they are at exploration stage. So if an
Right.
organization is very supportive of that exploration, if that's what they want, I think
Right.
that's very key. For example,
Mhm.
my boss specifically knows exactly what I want to do outside of my work, right? I run smaller businesses, I want to do my master's. He knows all of this because he has conversations with me. And that's very key for me as a millennial because I know that my boss cares about me more than just somebody who's working for an outcome for an organization, right? I think at the end of the day, it is the need of a human person, whether you're a millennial or not, a human
Yep.
person to be cared for, to be heard, to be understood, to really be part of something more than just, earning an income, earning a salary, doing sales for a company. We want to know that we are more than just that. I think that's very key for millennials. More the elderly, when I speak to, because I used to be in recruitment as well, so I do recruit
Yeah.
the elderly, and the key difference I think when I see a bit of the elderly folks is that they either want a direct career change, something
Yep.
new, or there's something thinking at the back of their head for many years, and they finally
Yep.
say, okay, I know what, I'm just gonna leave my current 9 to 5 job and do something that I really want, or they really want to go deeper into what they're doing. But at the end of the day, it comes down to listening and asking the right questions that you find out about that person and really asking what drives them. We can't just go up to somebody you don't know, like a stranger or a young millennial who just joined an organization and go like, oh, okay,
Right.
so what motivates you? They're not going to be able to answer that question, right? One thing is
Right.
because you have no rapport. Number two, they have to put up a front because if I tell you something else, you might fire me, or you might say I'm not doing my job in the organization because I have conflict of interest outside. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
factors involved, but the fact is that that relationship and trust needs to be built from scratch, and that's how you
Yep.
find the true key drivers for a person, whether it's in the workflow, in the workforce, or just personally, or somebody you meet. I think that's
Excellent.
my key take. I wanted to spark a bit more fire. I raised my hand just now, but I didn't think you see it. But I wanted to
Yeah.
touch a bit about, Kathy and Kim, you guys mentioned about similarities, right, more than differences, and taking away the labels. But the question is, I mean, looking at the trends and understanding how we develop as people, at the teenage lifespan, right? If you look at the teenagers, when they reach a certain age, like maybe 13, 14, maybe much younger now, I think 11, 12, they start to need to have that need of self-autonomy, identity, right? And they grasp at everything because they want something that they can call their own. And which is why a lot of people assume millennials live on labels because we want to grasp at something that we call our own. For example, if you think about gender identity itself, they are very particular about how you identify them. It must be our voice rather than you label them. So I think that's where I come in to say as well. Labels are actually quite important for the younger generation, as what I can see as a trend, because they want to. It's not because they want to be, oh, I'm special, I'm unique, which they are, but it's more of that need to grasp onto something that they can call their own. even if it's their business, they want that kind of ownership, I would say, and ownership over the things that they choose to do. So I'm going to spark a bit of fire over there. I don't know whether Kim and Kathy have anything else to say on that, but that's something I would love to raise. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go
no,
ahead, Kim. Go ahead, Kim.
it's a great point. I guess what I meant by losing the labels was giving people the right to have the thing of their very own, which is what you've just said. So they want something that is theirs, that is, so Andrea is Andrea. She's not a millennial, because that's making you it's making you a part of a mass thing. Whereas what I was trying to say instead was, if we lost the label and went, well, this is Andrea, let me understand about Andrea, or this is Rohan, or this is Kathy, or this is Michael, or this is Jasmine, and not beforehand create a label that goes, oh, well, these are the part of the millennials and these are non-millennials. It's around saying, actually, what I want to do is I want to learn your label, not give you one of my own. I suppose that's what I was meaning. So I think hopefully we're violently agreeing.
That's amazing. I love that, right? That label is not like the common price tag that you put on every piece that is in one section of the row of the supermarket. I think that's where we are coming from. I love that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's that piece that's going, actually, rather than have it in my head, I'm going to go in totally open-minded with no label and say, tell me what your label is. How do you want to be defined? What would you describe yourself as? What is, because we're all journeying back to be who we are. We start off as who we are with, my little kids, and I'm seeing this so much with my little girl now, who's turning 5 next month, sorry. And you kind of already are seeing that need for them. They want to fit in, but they also want to be them. They want to be seen. And I think that's what we do. And, certainly my generation was be seen and not heard. I've done really badly at that. But it's then getting to this age and going, actually, I want to journey back to be me. I want to be able to say, actually, this is what I'm about. This is my purpose. And this is hopefully where I add value. And I think what we're seeing in the new generations is, because as parents, we're bringing them up to say, know your worth. Know that you're here to be you. And that's perfect. And that's what we want. Is actually what I see a lot of is people that have got millennial children, and yet they still struggle to lead millennials in the workplace. And I'm like, what would you want for your son or daughter? How would you want them to be led? Well, I'd like them to talk to them and ask. Then do it. Talk to them and ask. They're not too different. And I think it's true of every generation. It's like, we just want to be asked so that we can own something of our own and feel valued. And I think it's the simplest thing to do is to ask somebody. And you're right, they might not always have the answer, but they'll have what's driving them right now, or they'll have what question that they've got that they really are trying to get answered. Either one of those, when you know it, allows you to add some value. And hopefully that's how you build that connection, you build that trust, and you grow together because you're in it together.
Excellent. Thank you, Kim. I'm going to change the format because we do have around 6 minutes left before we have to go. Having said that, because since Andrea sparked a interesting question right here, and she did actually signal out to both Kim and Kathy, so I'm going to pass the stage over to Kathy first. But Rohan and Jasmine, you have an important role, and that important role is you're going to wrap up our forum later by actually just addressing Net Schooler's question earlier, and that is, what do you think are some of the conflicts that may arise from an intergenerational workforce, and how can leaders or even the younger ones avoid it? But before we go there, over to you, Kathy. What are your thoughts about Andrea's interpretation of millennials or anyone wanting a label as an identity marker for them? Any thoughts, Kathy?
Well, I think that Kim provided, again, such sage advice around that, and the sense that people want to be unique. I think for me, what's been interesting, sort of being lucky enough to have bridged the late 20th century and now being in the 21st century, is to see how social media has provided us all with an opportunity to be a person in and of our own right, or to project the identity we want to project. So already that's a very different way of operating in the world than what we used to. Because again, in the other era, you were immediately positioned according to how you looked or where you were or how you arrived in the workforce or how you arrived in a room. Whereas now you can project who you are. But then that leads us to the other side of it, which is that with social media, we now all become samist and we all work in our own little echo chambers. And something I mentioned on another panel is that what really distresses me is when I go into the community and I want to photograph little people who are in class or something and they all strike up that Kim Kardashian lippy pose. I want to throw up, but I can't explain to them why I want to throw up. But I want to throw up because I'm not seeing them. So on the one hand, we've got this opportunity for people, for kids and people who are emerging in this century to be utterly unique and utterly out there and to achieve huge acclaim so much easier. We are a connected global society. We're no longer subject to the parish law, but or whatever it is that you've grown up in. But on the other hand, we're now being subject to the oppression of, as we've seen with the Senate hearings, of the Facebook type generation. And in this instance, it's the Kardashian generation, or it's the K-pop boys, or whatever. So suddenly again, and even this notion of what is your sexual identity, or, are you cisgender? Are you there, them, they, her, his, her? Again, does this, where has this arisen from and why has it gained such precedence? Because it wasn't that prominent for years. Maybe that's a good thing or a bad thing. But sometimes it's awkward in a workplace to immediately project yourself in terms of gender. Would you not want to be projecting yourself in, and I know this is going to be controversial, but would you not want to be projecting yourself in terms of your expertise as an engineer? Do you want to immediately say, I'm queer and my name is X, when actually what you really want to say is, I understand aeronautical engineering. So we all, according to sociology, we project who we are at any one time. But again, we're getting oppression even when we're wanting labels or not wanting labels, I think.
Right. Wow, thank you, Kathy. Thank you for that. And thank you for this discussion. I think it's really nice where we hit straight up to the peak with Kathy, Kim, and Andrea sharing with us about labels and about, is it really needed, or is it like a tool for millennials to have an identity, to cling on to something that's really their own? And I think it all comes down towards leaders really having that empathetic approach, really listening. And I think earlier Kim mentioned about really just listening to their stories, listening to what they want, really caring for them. And that's the key. Kathy and Kim and Andrea, thank you, but don't go yet. We have not finished. Let's give a little space for two of our other panelists to wrap up our session. So Jasmine and Rohan, who would like to go first? Just raise up your hand. All right, Jasmine. Rohan, there's always a saying, gentlemen, always let the ladies go first. But go ahead, Jasmine, go ahead.
All right. So quoting back to what Kim has said earlier, sorry. Yeah.
No worries. Go ahead.
Yeah, quoting back to what Kim has said earlier about finding it that we should really make conversations and simply just talk to them, between both the generations. And I feel in that alone, managing difficult conversations isn't all that easy, because it is uncomfortable and it requires certain changes and a change of perspective. So that alone, maneuvering through an uncomfortable situation is how a breakthrough sometimes happen. And I think both sides, both the generations should adapt and adhere to that. And I think only then mutual trust and transparency can be achieved on both ends, basically. And the other takeaway I think I got from teacher Kian, he mentioned something about talking to them and understanding their point of view, basically. There's always certain unfulfilled desires that both both generations are trying to bring across. And it's never okay to discount what we can learn from both sides. So the idea is just essentially being open-minded and being receptive to see what essentially can be brought across the table. So yes, that is all from me. These two takeaways that I got.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. How about yourself, Rohan? Go ahead.
I actually think, right, in the end of the day, no matter from what generation you come from, we are all human beings.
Yep.
And in every setting, I actually feel that we actually need to focus on building a relationship.
Yeah.
And in that relationship we have with each other, we should have empathy, we should have acceptance, we should have providing each other with a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel this when, in the end of the day, when we are able to form a relationship, letting down our titles, letting go of judgment, letting go of stereotypes that, okay, that person, like for example, a stereotype would be like, oh, that person is older, they might think they know it all. Letting that go down, and also letting go the idea of, oh, that person may be young, but they may not know much. Letting go all of these stereotypes,
Yes.
this generalization, and actually form a relationship. And bring all those three values of empathy, sense of belonging, and acceptance, and look at the individual as who they are and what they bring onto the table, rather than what the baggages that bring behind. And that would eventually bring the generation together. It will solve the divides. It will overcome challenges, because end of the day, it's not really about how much you know. It's really not about how much is your expertise. It's really not about how much you have developed in your career world. It's about, end of the day, it's about how much we care for each other. It's about being human and caring for each other, and that is something that eventually will carry on throughout times. Because end of the day, if you really begin with the end in mind, thinking about when you are in your grave and what will people be speaking about you,
Yes.
you put that into a perspective and then start forming relationships, meaningful relationship with people of different backgrounds.
Yes.
And be impactful in your own way, because that would actually bring people together, because you'll be eventually leaving behind a legacy.
Ooh.
That
Yes.
is what I really think it's all about in a whole.
Rohan, you have mentioned it. You have summed up our discussion for today so well. I would like to take this opportunity again to thank Kathy, to thank Kim, to thank Jasmine, to thank Andrea, to thank Teacher Kian, and also to thank Andrea, who is backstage with us right now, for making this summit happen. And Rohan, thank you again. If there's only one message that I could sum up as your moderator, Michael Teo here from Thriving Talents, for our topic on bridging the generations gap challenges with ageism, is to focus on our similarities. Start building our strength based on our similarities. Lastly, before we go, I'm just going to trouble our backstage crew. I know the one-man army, the one-man crew. Andrea, if you could bring up some of our comments from our crowd, from our audience just now. I think Perthpal Singh mentioned something really powerful. I thought that was a very powerful remark that I'd like to conclude. Perthpal mentioned something about, in manufacturing decades ago, people, there you go. So Perthpal Singh mentioned the concept of mass customization that was coined in the world of manufacturing years ago. It's now applicable on human relationships too. It is about humanizing the way we work with each other, customizing your approach with people differently to optimize results. Thank you, Prof. Palsa. I'm going to borrow that statement of yours to end our forum for today. Thank you, everybody. Kathy, Kim, Rohan, Jasmine, Andrea, and also Teacher Kian. And for all of you following our Global Empowerment Summit, this is Michael Teo here from Thriving Talent signing off. And I believe all of our panelists here are looking forward to connect with you all on LinkedIn as well. Just look out for us, okay? Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening. Now you can say good night. Have a good night, everyone. And for those of you who are tuning in from the other side of the world, have a splendid day ahead still, all right? For us here in Asia, It's time to say goodnight for now, but our spirit never sleeps. We're always there to inspire more people. Thank you, everybody. Have a good time. That's my love for all of you. Take care, everyone. See you. Thank you.